It's A.D. Baker. Come with me for a ride this morning. I hate to wake the neighbors up, but somebody got to do it.
Since it's such a beautiful day, I thought I'd talk a little bit about climate. Not the climate you're probably thinking about as I try to do the speed limit here. I'm talking about your inner climate, the invisible atmosphere that you carry with you everywhere that you go. As I was driving through the hills this morning, I couldn't help but notice the weather's beautiful. There's blue skies, tons of fresh air out here. The kind of morning that just makes you grateful to be alive, honestly. But then I thought, what if someone else drove this exact same road today? Same Corvette, same hills, same sunshine, same winding elevated roads. Would they experience the same thing that I'm experiencing this morning? Maybe, but maybe not. Because two people can experience the same circumstances while living in completely different worlds. Happens all the time. One person notices beauty, another one notices problems. One notices possibilities as this car speeds past me, they better slow down before they get a ticket. But another one sees obstacles, one feels gratitude, one feels anxiety. And the road hasn't changed, the weather hasn't changed, the driver's changed. And I think that's kind of true of life. For years, I believed that if I could just change my circumstances, I'd finally change my life. Better job, bigger house, more money, better timing, more confidence. I thought that the outside world was leading and my inner world was following. But after years of studying psychology, human behavior, and neuroscience, some of the greats like Neville Goddard, excuse me, Joseph Murphy, reality transurfing, and so many other thinkers, I kind of kept running to the same idea. They were all describing the same invisible principle, all using different words. People don't really live inside events, they live inside states. Think about that for just a second. Two people lose the same job. One believes this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, and the other one thinks, kind of, I wonder what opportunity this is making room for. Same event, different state. Two people receive criticism, one shuts down, the other one grows. Same word, same situation, but just a different state. Two people walk into the same room, one immediately feels like they don't belong, the other feels right at home. Different climate. That realization changed everything for me because I stopped asking myself, how do I change my life? And how do I start asking, what kind of inner climate am I living in every single day of my life? You see, most people spend their lives trying to change the weather, today's mood, today's setback, today's problem, today's disappointment. But weather was never designed to last because storms pass, clouds move, but guess what? Sunshine returns. That's climate. Climate is what remains. Climate quietly determines what grows. And I began wondering if our lives work exactly the same way. What if your relationships, your opportunities, your confidence, your decisions, even the way you interpret life are growing out of an invisible climate you've been living in for years? Not because you're broken, not because you're unlucky, but because climate naturally produces certain kinds of weather. That one question became the foundation of a book I've been writing called Inner Climate: How the State You Live In Shapes Everything That Follows. Not because I have all the answers, but because I think most of us have been looking in the wrong direction. We've been trying to rearrange our lives instead of changing the atmosphere from which our lives are growing. And maybe, just maybe, the life you've been searching for isn't waiting for you somewhere out there. Maybe it's waiting for a different climate inside of you. As I came down these hills today, one final thought kept coming back to me. And that's really what I wanted to leave you with today because you can't always change today's weather, but you can choose the climate that you live in. Now, let's transition and talk a little bit about goals and contrast.
Before we talk about goals, I recently wrote an entire book on this idea called inner climate. If this message resonates with you, I'll leave a link below. You ever work really hard to try to reach a goal, and then you finally get to that goal, and guess what? It's different than what you thought it was going to be. That's actually a good thing. Once you reach a goal, you now have what's called contrast, right? The goal is going to feel different than what you envisioned it, but that gives you the ability to be able to modify that goal, reach for higher goals, or be satisfied with the goal that you thought you were going to reach. I know for me, every time I reach a goal, I want to reach another goal because that goal feels different than what I envisioned it. And that's okay. So always have contrast, always feel good about wherever you are, and keep striving to be the best person that you can be. I'm Eddie Baker. See you next time for Corvette Conversations.